Welcome to For the Win podcast. I'm your host, Karen Schaefer, founder of Women's Win, the Women's Wealth and Impact Network for women over 50. All our lives, we've been running a race in order to please everybody else, but guess what? Now it's our turn to win. Welcome to For the Win podcast. Hello, everyone. It's Karen Schaefer. Welcome to For the Win podcast. I snuck into my office a little early this morning and decided I'm going to set this up by myself and just talk to you ladies today. So if there's a weird lighting or weird sound, I'm just going to beg forgiveness today, okay? And anytime this happens in the future. I haven't been sleeping that lately, and it's because we have so many guests. So there's no problem or anything, but I just thought, man, I'm just going to take advantage of being awake. So that's what I'm doing here today. Something's been sitting with me that I wanted to share with all of you. And it's all about the 12 pillars of wealth and impact creation that I have used to create a multi-million-dollar business. And then in turn, that has allowed me to create the impact that I want to create in this world. And as we always say, wealth is defined in a lot of different ways, right? It can be money, it can be time, it can be resources. It can be relationships. There's so many ways to define wealth, and it's all of those. For us, I'm talking about money. So just so you know, and just so it's clear, I don't try to make any excuses about that. For me, money is a core belief, and I believe in financial freedom, and it allows me that, and it allows me to do other things. So if that doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Something else may resonate with you, or this just may not be for you. And I think all of that is okay. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm standing on my treadmill because I work from a treadmill desk because all women, I'm a multitasker, right? And so if you see a little shaking, that's all that is. You're like, okay, Karen, maybe you need to go back and get a little more sleep. But I really just wanted to talk to all of you about these 12 pillars because I feel like I haven't really spent time on them with you. And you'll see a book come out because I wanted to write that for all of you too, where I could really define these and you could spend time with them and reading them and really working with them in a way that resonates with you. But I think all women deserve to have wealth and create impact. And like I said, money or financial freedom, that's one of my core values. And I think that's really important. And I'll talk to you about core values another time. But I think that today, I just want to run through those 12 pillars. And I want to tell you what the impetus was for me to actually sit down and say, what was it that really created wealth for me and in turn allowed me to create impact? And I wanted to share all those steps with you. But the story behind those steps is that in 2008, the real estate market crashed. And I think you all know that a large part of my wealth has come from real estate. There's a million ways to create wealth. So don't worry if you're not interested in real estate or you're like, oh, are you just going to teach real estate, Karen? The reality is I will show you how I invested, and I'm happy and thrilled to do that because I'd love to see all of that for you too, or to see that abundance for all of you. But there's a lot of ways that I've created wealth. But it all started from years and years ago in 2008 when the market crashed, the real estate market. My husband and I were involved in the real estate market, and he had just a year prior quit his job to help me to do some more investing because I had just started doing some real estate investing and had a few properties, nothing big, but a few properties. I was still segueing out of being an actor and into being an investor. And it was an interesting time because we didn't realize, of course, that the market was going to crash. And Pete had a really nice job and all these things that he quit. And all of a sudden, the market crashed. And I distinctly remember one day, we immediately downsized. So right away, we were really careful. And it was by the grace of God, truthfully, because a lot of our friends lost everything, including their own homes. But we downsized. We lived very small. We were very careful with our money, of which we had nothing. And I remember very much on the day that I walked into the room and Pete said to me, we have 200. And I said, 200 what? He goes, $200 left. And he meant for everything. So how do we pay our mortgage? How do we buy groceries? How do we get gas? How do we start a new business? It was impactful. And then to make matters worse, I had a series of TIAs from all the stress. And those are what are referred to as mini strokes. And I was in my 40s. And so it's like I was old or anything. And at some point, because I kept having them, they said, you have a 90% chance of a massive stroke and possibly death. And I was like, wow, that's frightening, right? And I could only think of two things at the time. I could think of, I need to make sure Pete is okay, because if I'm Pete, my husband, if I'm not here, then I need to make sure he is okay. Oh my gosh, you guys, I might tear up talking about this. And then the other thought was, I will never, ever be in this position again, ever. And I don't care how long it takes, but I was put on this earth to do something extraordinary. And I intend to do that. And so again, by the grace of God, I walked through all those TIAs without a lot of, or hardly any long-term damage or anything. Most people don't even know I ever had those. And number one, I made sure Pete was in a place that he felt good and comfortable. That was so important to me. I made sure my siblings knew that Pete was their sibling, which they already always embraced him as such. They call him his brother, their brother, not their brother-in-law. And then I got to work because I was like, we will never, ever be in this position again. And shortly thereafter, we started investing again. And it was really Pete who ignited that idea. And we used the funds from our 401k initially, all legally and ethically. And I'll talk about that another time. And it wasn't really a 401k, so I'm saying that incorrectly, but I'll tell you guys about that another time. And to get started again. And we started flipping houses. From there, in 2013 or 14, I think I ended up getting my real estate license, which I didn't want to do because I was always like, I'm a realtor. I don't want to really. And the first few years I worked part-time because once I got healthy, unfortunately, my dad's always had health issues, but he got really sick. And I wanted to spend a lot of time with him as much as I could because he passed away in 2015. And so in 13 and 14 or something like that, I spent a lot of time with him and worked part-time as a real estate agent. And then Pete and I really supercharged things from maybe 2015, 16, 17, something like that going forward. And over a period of 5 to 10 years, which you'd be amazed what you can accomplish in that time, I realized that we really incorporated not only some of the things we used to do with our previous home staging training business that we had built out and turned into a global business, but also now as a realtor, as a active real estate investor, we really incorporated a lot of different things. So I took all the things I already knew and improved them and then created and filled in the holes of the things that I said, you know what, this is what we really need to do in order to create wealth. And then the second thing was I knew in my heart that God had always called me to create impact, to always affect other people's lives in the form of contribution. And I think that really for everybody, and I think especially for women, I think that we definitely want to touch people's lives. We're helpers. We want to be able to always help people, to touch their lives, to make a difference, to lift people up and to lift one another up. That's really what W.I.N is all about, right? The Women's Wealth and Impact Network. It's women helping women to build their dreams, to create success. And really, the reason that I did this always was to inspire women to create wealth and impact. And that's really what led me to all of this. And so I started thinking about once we were really building again and building this beautiful multimillion-dollar empire, if you will. I know I should put these away, right? Anyway, and it hit me that, okay, these are the things I'm doing. And they were in different order than what I'm going to tell you, because ultimately I ended up having to put them together and then in the right order to really take everything we were doing to the next level. The most important thing, and this kind of drives me crazy, today is mindset. And I always poo-pooed that, thought it was a little frou-frou for me, for who I am. I was like, I'm busy, I'm a multitasker, I'm standing on my treadmill. But it's not. The reality is if we don't have the right mindset, we really can't achieve anything. We cannot move forward. We can't accomplish what we want to accomplish in the way in which we want to do it and on the scale in which we want to do it or in the way in which we are called to do it. But yeah, so I think I'm like, yeah, I think mindset is the key to success. And really, I think ultimately mindset boils down to what's your reason for doing this? Is this your passion? Is it your purpose? Then why are you doing it? And do you have the momentum and the inspiration to keep going? And that's why your why is so important, is you must have the momentum and you must have the inspiration that keeps you going every day, even when you don't feel like it, that keeps you doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do. And that is so important. We'll talk a lot about mindset. You'll see it in the book. You'll see it in the training classes. I'll always talk about mindset. It is truly the thing that changed everything for me. And if you think about it, it had to, because I had a 90% chance of a massive stroke in my early 40s and death. And so I think if I didn't have a mindset, I really don't think I would be here right now. And I'm so fortunate. So that's number one. And write that down, because it's so important. And even when we brush it off, or we think we don't have time, or we think we're already confident or positive minded or the glass half full kind of people, the truth is, until we really get our mind in the right place and really understand our why, we can't create that momentum and that inspiration to do what we were put here to do. The second thing is marketing. It is that you can give this away, but don't ever let go of overseeing it. Marketing is your key to success. You have to understand marketing in order to successfully build and grow and maintain any kind of business, any kind of company, any kind of service that you do or provide. Because otherwise, how do you reach your customer? How do you continue to talk to your customer? How do you attract more customers? It is the one thing that I think that if you don't have anything else, you need to understand marketing, whether it's online marketing, offline marketing, direct mail marketing, whatever kind of marketing you do. And again, we'll talk about marketing because there's so many different ways. Marketing is even word of mouth. I think it's all of those things. But then if it's word of mouth and it's your customers filling your funnel, so to speak, how are you rewarding your customer? What's your client retention? And how do you reward new customers coming in? There's so much to it. Message market match. Does your message match your market? Are you putting it in the right place for the right customer? How have you defined who your customer is? You guys can see we could go on and on about marketing. It's so important. And it's all these little nuances. And sometimes I think people feel like, oh my gosh, it's too big, or I'm not good at social media, or blah, 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 blah. Really, to me, you should only have 3 forms of marketing. Now, that's not to say you don't have some subcategories, but you should have 3 excellent forms of marketing that are very specific to who your customer is and how does your product or service serve that customer. So those 3 things should really be the 3 most important and most visible ways that your customer can find you. And if you're doing something, say on TikTok, but your customer is a 70-year-old man, chances are that's never going to reach your customer. I'm not saying social media is a bad thing at all. I'm just saying, who's your customer? Where do they see you? And so marketing is so important. And again, we'll cover more of that as we go, as we get to know each other and whatnot. But I wanted you to really know that marketing is all about serving your clients. The third thing is sales. It's almost like a dirty word, right? It's sales, money, all those things. I love those words. Ted Thomas used to say to me, if you get to the end of your presentation and you're still selling, you did something wrong. And I think that is so true. And it's some of that is technique, right? You plant seeds as you go, and hopefully you resonate with your customer if your product is serving them. And then some of it is really just about, is your product serving the right customer? And if so, you really never are selling, because your product or service should speak to them and sell itself. And I think that's really where people miss the mark in their sales. And I think if you really have a reason why, and that's your purpose, then I think that you will attract the right customer, and most of the sales sell themselves. And I think you'll find that when I was teaching home staging across the globe, and at the time I was selling different programs and things, but my top program was $10,000. And I would present it during a 3-day staging seminar. And at the very end, I'd say, the first time this happened, it was very funny. But at the very end, I would obviously, at the beginning, I would say, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to work with me directly. And is that okay with you? And then at the end of the presentation, of course, I'd say, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about how you can work with me. And I would say, and then you're going to interview with somebody if you want to do it, and we'll see if we're a right match, and so on and so forth. And the funny thing that happened was I expected that I would be selling these people during those interviews because I truly wanted to make sure we were all good a match. But they were selling themselves to me. I was like, oh, it took me like 2 or 3 interviews go, wait a minute, hold on. They're selling to me. This is amazing. But it's because I really knew who my customer was, and I was creating products and trainings for my customers. So I think when you talk about sales, it doesn't have to be a dirty word anymore. It's really just about serving your customer with your purpose. And if you don't lose track of your purpose, if you don't lose track of your reason why, you will always serve them at the highest level. Isn't that cool? I love that. Next is systems. Now, systems, some of us are good at, some are not good at. I'm just going to tell you, sometimes we're going to pull up our big girl panties and get good at something and hire somebody who's better than us at it. But it doesn't change the fact that with these, what I think are core pillars, your 12 core pillars, creating wealth and impact, I think that you should still be familiar with them so that you know how to direct someone else. I'm not saying you should be the expert at everyone. I'm not saying you should run everything. I don't think you should, as a matter of fact. But I do think you need a certain level of knowledge so that you can give the proper direction. And that's important because you're the leader of your company, right? So with systems, this is truly how we automate something. And this kind of speaks to what I said just a moment ago, in that if you are truly systemizing and automating everything, then you should be able to just hand that off and let somebody else take it over. In real estate, I have a great referral program. So a referral program for when people refer clients to me, a referral program when I refer clients to other agents. And it works like this. And my transaction coordinator can handle everything. Just because I set it all up into a system, I still make money. I never touch anything. And that's the beauty of a system. And so I think in any kind of effective company or business or product or service or anything you want to do to create your wealth and your impact, the more systemized you can become, still customized and personalized, but the more systemized you can become, the more effective you are, because you're able to then take the little things off your plate. And I think that's so important. Next is speaking. I guess you guys would never get that I've been a speaker many times in the past, right? I love to just speak casually. That's who I am. I'm what I call a prepared winger. I prepare, I write notes, I create an outline, and then I just kind of let it go. And I'm always super comfortable with saying, hey, I got to just check my notes, or, oh, shoot, what is that word? And I just feel like it's who I am, and it makes me more personable. When you're speaking, be who you are. It will resonate with the right people. It really showcases your true authenticity. And I think that's so important. Sometimes we have to adjust things to meet our audience slightly, and that's okay. But just don't lose who you are in here, because it's so important. And people can see it otherwise, I think, or they can feel it even otherwise. And we don't want to do that. Speaking comes in a variety of ways. You could be a keynote speaker, a platform speaker. You could be speaking on Zoom. You could be doing podcasts or vlogs or anything else. There's a million ways to get out there and speak. But speaking is your megaphone. It is the way that you can reach your customers so effectively, and the way that they can hear you and get to know you. And I think that's really important. It's funny that we can do this all now online in a variety of ways, and we still feel like we know one another. That wasn't the case maybe 10 years ago. That's, I think, a gift that COVID gave us. If we can talk about gifts from COVID, I don't know. But I think that it normalized getting to know each other online. And that's okay. Not that we weren't on our way toward that, but I do believe it expedited the timeline. That's great. Speaking is one of those things that I think it scares the bejeebies out of people. But being able to do it like this, or on Zoom, or even on the phone, anything like that, is a great way to learn to get better. And speaking is one of my favorite things, and I can't wait to talk to you about it more and to teach you the different tricks of the trade that I have learned as far as speaking and how it can really impact an audience and make a huge difference. But most importantly, it is how you get your word out. So even though it might be frightening to you, I will show you some ways that you can mitigate that fear and be able to really get out there and do some talking, do some speaking in a variety of different ways and on different platforms. Writing is the next one. This is simply putting your message into words. Now, just like speaking, there's a million things you can do with this, right? You can write emails, you can write copy, you can write scripts, you can write books, you can do a little bit of everything or a lot of one thing and a little bit of something else. The cool thing is women generally are very creative writers, and they're generally very good writers. And even if it's short or long, maybe you have just like a long distance runner or short distance runner, maybe you have a skill in one versus the other. My superpower in writing is really making something better. So I like getting something and then going, how do I make that better? How do I take that to the next level? Sometimes people have a superpower in originating content or writing a script or writing a book or something. Books for me, even though I do write books and I will continue to write books because I think they're very important, they're hard for me to write because I lose my attention span. And so I have little tips and techniques that I use in order to get through each book, each chapter, etc. But writing is one of those things that it is a true skill set. And it is so important, especially as we start to lose track of communication with other people, as we lose the connections that we used to have and things. I think writing is one of those things that we just have to have in our lives, and it will make you a better communicator, but it will also nurture relationships. And it is an evergreen thing, so it's something that you can leave behind. And I love the idea of that, writing a letter, writing a book, whatever the case is, it's something that can be there forever. And I think that is really important because you can touch people's lives, whether you know them or not know them, for eternity. And I just want you to think about that. I want you to think about the impact that it can actually make. Number seven of the 12 pillars is coaching and consulting. So obviously I do coaching and consulting. I think many of you will do coaching and consulting in a variety of different ways. But I do think just a coach for a sports team or anything else, you have the opportunity to impact someone's life on a small scale and a grand scale. I think that it's important when you know something that you can share it. When you have a skill that you help to teach that skill to other people, because those are things that someone will carry with them for the rest of their life. And you have no idea how much of an impact it will not only make for them, but how then they will pay that forward. And I think that is the power of coaching and consulting, and almost a duty or an obligation on our part. And now I can hear many of you going, Karen, I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to be a consultant. I don't want to do this. I want to have this shop. I want to have this service. That's okay. But when you're there, you're still educating people, right? You're still guiding them on how to create this thing or how to do this thing or how to use this thing. That's coaching and consulting. So however you want to label it, just make sure that you are clear in your message when you're working with your client or your customer, because it's your opportunity to really help to serve them at a higher level. That's the power of coaching and consulting. Number 8 of our 12 pillars, and this one is interesting because I'll just say it's relationships. And I think that a lot of the pillars feed into relationship, right? Because if we can't have a great relationship, number one, the customer may not be happy, right? Or whomever we're serving may not be happy. They may not return to us. They may not give us referrals. There's so many things, and they can't enrich our lives, which I think is really important. There's so many things that feed into relationships, and really all the other pillars that we've talked about so far are all about serving those relationships, right? So go ahead and build a relationship with your client or your customer. Let them get to know you. It can be like this. They may just resonate with your story. So it's okay to be a little vulnerable and build your business based on your story. I have a nephew who's 19 years old, and he's building a really amazing and impressive business right now. And I said, you need to tell your story. And he was like, why? People won't trust me. I'm only 19. I was like, it's why you need to tell your story, because it's so impressive that you're 19 years old and you're doing this. And you need to let people say, wow, that's impactful, or that resonates with me, or I'm 19 and I could do this, or wow, I'm 45 years old, but I'm looking at this guy who's doing this thing. I could do something else too. So there's so many reasons why we need to share our story and let our clients get to know us on that level. I'm not talking about every intimate detail of your life, but just like I shared my story with you earlier, as far as having a series of strokes and being broke and all those other things, right? It's time to share your story. It's how you build your relationship. It's how you nurture relationship. It's how you keep people attached. It's so very important. Number 9, business structure. This is what I call the necessary evil. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I know I'm a total nerd, right? Haven't I said that before? So the business structure, these are the things that none of us likes to do. And ultimately, you really need to find somebody else to do this. So anything you don't want to do, we got to find somebody else to do. I'll say that overall for all 12 pillars. But these are things that they just have to happen. Who's doing your taxes? What about your insurance? What about contracts, hiring, firing, blah, 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 all these things. You can tell I don't love any of these things at all, but they're vital and they have to happen. So you need to get a grasp on what needs to be done and have the right team behind you. So usually this involves like a bookkeeper and or a CPA, an attorney, an insurance agent, and somebody who's, for me, I think at least, good at HR. These can all be online people. They can all be contractors. They don't have to be a full-time in-house person, or they can be depending on what kind of business you're running. So just think about what are the business structures that I need to incorporate into my company, and then who can help me with that. But those are, like I said before, the necessary evils. We could just call them that instead of business structures, really. The next thing is number 10 is content creation. What is that? It's this. It's creating podcasts and blogs and videos, or writing a book, or producing flyers. It's content creation. So every single day, and I'm going to create a challenge in our W.I.N membership for all you W.I.N-hers, and that we create content every single day. That's my goal for this year, is every day, no matter how big or how little the content is. It might be that I'm creating a whole training program. It might be that I'm doing a quick 30-second video, but every day, if you create some type of content, you will change the structure of your business in 1 year. You will grow your business exponentially. So we'll do all that together to make it a little easier for everybody, because sometimes that's hard and life gets in the way, especially for us, because we're such multitaskers as women. We take on so much. And I think that sometimes, unless we have one another to support us, we lose track of that, even 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever the case is. The second to last thing, investing. You guys know I've talked a lot about investing as a real estate agent, as a real estate investor. We, in the last few years, have started to invest in the stock market as well. We didn't do it before. In many ways, I wish we would have, just because there were huge gains for a while, but we were also gaining in real estate. So for us, it was a balance, and it depends on what you want to do. And we'll have some experts talk about that more thoroughly. But I believe that investing is a pillar in the 12 pillars to creating wealth and impact for women, because it will 10 times your income. So over the next year or so, if you can make $100,000, we can show you how to invest that to create and make $1 million, or 150,000, or whatever is important to you. But I truly believe that if you really want to, and you're motivated to multiply your income, you can do that through investing. And it depends on who you are and what your appetite for risk is, and all those other things, where you live, as to how you want to invest. And some of you may say, it just doesn't feel good to me, and that's okay. But I do believe it is a pillar in wealth and create and impact. And then last, number 12, this is far and away the most important thing of all of the pillars, and it's contribution. And remember when I talk about my pastor saying, you're blessed to receive, you're more blessed to give? That's what contribution is. And it's really what makes it all worthwhile. Like I said, as women, we want to contribute. We want to touch other people's lives. We want to make an impact. We want to change the world. It's who we are. Together, we can do that every single day. I love that. Is what contribution is. It is why it is the final, but I think the most important step in the 12 pillars to creating wealth and impact for women. I just wanted to bring these into your awareness today and share them with you. And hopefully they've helped you to start thinking about creating wealth and impact. And yeah, I guess really that's it. I just felt really inspired today to share all of these with you. And then you'll hear more and more about them down the road. And I can't wait to talk to you about each one individually and really help you to start to build your business, your dream, and to create your wealth and impact. So once again, I'm Karen Schaefer. Thank you so much for joining me here at For the Win podcast. You guys know I love you, every single one of you. I think all of you are winners. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me on For the Win podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so now and share it with all the women in your lives. Our goal is to inspire and motivate women over 50 around the globe. As one, we are mighty. Together, we change the world.